O mankind, you should be mindful of your duty to Allah.
Train the child the way he should go, and when he grows, he will not depart from it.
One person who, when you empower her, she can do a lot.
Bad company corrupts good character.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. I seek refuge with Allah from Satan, the accursed. I begin in the name of Allah, most gracious, ever merciful. O ye people, fear your Lord, who created you from a single soul, and created them from its mate, and from them twain spread many men and women. Holy Quran, chapter 4, verse 2. My cherished viewers, I greet you all with the Islamic salutation of peace. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuhu. May the peace and blessings of Allah be upon you all. Once again, welcome to A Woman's Perspective. Our topic today is something that is critical for the continuity of the human populace. This particular episode aims to give a general overview on the Islamic perspective of childbearing and weaning. Once again, I have with me two scholars of Islam to digest this topic. To my far left is Sister Fatima Eshen Abbas, who is currently the Moral Education and Training Secretary, Vice Secretary for National Lajna Imaila. And to my immediate left is Hajia Rahmat Muslim, who is a retired educationist and also a former president of the National Lajna Imaila. Sisters, Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
As usual, we went out on the streets to sample your views, and this is what you said.
I think childbearing is very, very necessary because God in his infinite wisdom told us to give birth and fill the earth. So there's the need for procreation. So childbearing is very, very necessary in the human race.
Awo deɛ nke hia ma sɛ ɔbaa biara wowo sɛ Nyankopɔn bɔ wo sɛ wobɛwo deɛ a ehia sɛ wowo but ɛwɔ sɛ yɛhu sɛ nyɛ wo biara nso na Nyankopɔn bɔ ne sɛ ɔbɛwo ɛna ebi mu nso wɔ hɔ a awoɔ na ɔmo wo no egyina wɔn mo aso so ate asentia no deɛ obusa me ankyerɛkyerɛ mu ne yɛ bebree wo bi koraa wɔ hɔ nom a ebi a osi so abortion pa onye bi da what you say? Ebia wadia no obekɔ no yebekɔ ma no na ebia problem no kura mfiri oba no na afiri bema no nti ansa na yebeka sa awo no eye anasa nye no ka yebehwe bema no nso ni ahwe oba no se problem ye ebe afiri oba na na se afiri bema no.
Childbearing is necessary because it's good as a woman to give birth, and giving birth to is also important because children are good. When you have children in your home, you feel nice and you are comfortable with them.
Yeah, it's necessary as a human being or as a person to give birth to increase to increase child people in, because if there is no child bearing, there won't have been. You know, it's generation to generation. So this our generation wouldn't have been in an existence.
Interesting views there. Childbearing is necessary from what they are saying. So I'll begin with you, Sister Fatima. What is the general essence of childbirth to the society at large?
A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. As our sampled members said, childbearing is something that is crucial for the growth of a nation. If you have a nation where people feel that there should be no children, you can imagine how the growth of that nation would be. An example is the situation in China where families were supposed to give birth to just one child. And if that indeed helped them, I believe they wouldn't have now given room for people to give birth to more. So aside the generational thing that childbearing gives to a nation, it is able to increase the labor force of a country, and a country's development also depends on its healthy labor force. So it's very, very crucial for the development of a nation.
Yes, so Ajia Rahman, under Islamic marriage, what is the essence of childbirth?
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Under Islamic marriage, the essence of childbirth begins with the consummation of the marriage. And first of all, let us understand that children are a special gift from the Almighty Allah. And then once He has allowed marriage, He has ordained that we should give birth to children, multiply, and then increase the population. And so, to answer your question, it is very, very important to have children in Islam, and which is why when I said the consummation of marriage, from the very onset, there is a prayer that parents will pray to have pious children. And so, with pious children, you are assured of the fact that you are going to not only increase the population with children, but you are going to increase the population with pious children. And like my sister rightly said, gone are the days when parents consider childbirth just like giving birth to so many number of children without even considering anything. But that was just their understanding of giving birth to children, just to increase the population. Inshallah.
So in Islam, not just children, but pious children is what is. So what happens when some married people, they sit down and say, we don't want children? What is Islam's take on that, please, Ajia?
Islam actually abhors couple to decide on their own that they will not have children. The thing is ordained by the Almighty Allah Himself. So how can you be a Muslim, if it is within the Muslim setup, to say that we don't want to have children? If you don't want to have children, who will have children for you to have them for your work? For instance, if you have a company and then you want to employ people, and then you decide not to have children, who will give birth for you there to employ them to work for you, to increase your workforce and things like that? So it is actually necessary for people to understand that childbirth is an injunction from the Almighty Allah, and nobody should decide to say that I don't want to have children. That one, they go against the teaching of Islam.
Sister Fatma, what about single-sex marriages? Two women coming together, two men coming together. What does Islam say about that?
Well, Islam frowns upon single-sex marriage. We read from the Bible what happened to Sodom and Gomorrah when they engaged in such an act, the consequences that they face, the wrath of Allah which they face. So Islam actually frowns on single-sex marriage. It is not something that a society should adhere to. It is not good. Just as we said, if the purpose of childbearing is supposed to happen in a marriage, it is morally and spiritually upright if it happens in a marriage. And a marriage is supposed to be both sexes, because Allah Almighty has said in chapter 4 verse 2 that, O mankind, we should be mindful of our duty to Him who created us from He created man and woman from a single source, and from then He created male and female. So it means that God has created male and female for continuity of the human populace. So if there is single-sex marriage, how are they going to continue the human populace?
Okay, and when we were listening, someone said something that it's not everybody who can have children, but the pressures of the society. What will you say to a woman who is married and cannot have a child? Hajia.
Okay, let me just also add one little before I answer your question, to what my sister said. You know, to homosexuality, like she rightly said, is frowned upon by Islam. It is not allowed for anybody to think of the opposite sex. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in His own wisdom has said in the Holy Quran, Subhanallazi halaka azwaja. Holy is He who created all things in pairs. Everything God has created, He has created them in pairs. Plants, animals, and even inanimate. God has created them in pairs just for a purpose. So you can see that even among plants, sometimes you have, for instance, let's take the pawpaw tree. In our language, for instance, the local parlance, we have a male pawpaw tree, and then we also have a female pawpaw tree. And we see the male pawpaw tree doesn't bear fruits and things like that. And so to say that for women to marry themselves and then for men to marry themselves, Islam frowns upon it. And then back to your question. The pressure of society on couples who do not have children. We have heard from the lady who said that it's not everybody that Allah created that should have a child. Some of them, they will actually try and try and try. Nothing is wrong with them, but the children are not coming. It is God's wish. Children are a gift from God. You can't drink water to have children. So if it happens that in a family there are no children, it is not a curse. It is just that, and then, for instance, if they have tried all avenues, and then finally it has found out that the man is fine, the woman is fine, there is nothing wrong, just that the children are not coming. It is not, it's no fault of theirs. It is just that God hasn't given them their own. Maybe later on they will get or they will not get that one. It's not a crime at all, and therefore nobody should put pressure on couple who are married and the children are not forthcoming. We have been seeing them in our society, just like that.
Yeah.
And
sometimes too, the pressures is not only for couples. Sometimes even women who are grown up and don't have husbands, people start pressurizing them to give birth. What do you say on that, Hajita Fatima?
That is very, very wrong. Because as I earlier on mentioned, children are supposed to be born from marriages. So if the person is not married and you ask the person to go, you pressure the person to go and have a child, then you are pushing the person into adultery, which God Almighty says in the Bible that we should flee away from it, and also in the Quran and the Hadith as reported by various prophets. So it is something that society should frown upon, engaging in premarital affairs, if I should put it like that, because if the person is not married and you are pressuring the person to go and have a child, then that is not good at all.
So I am not having children. I'm in this marriage, and the pressures from my in-law and my family members is too much. Can I ask you, Sister Fatima, to carry my baby for me?
In Islam, it is not allowed. If you are not able to conceive, you can't ask another woman to carry your child for you. There are instances even when women, when they go through these surrogate mothers, after carrying the child for 9 months and going through the pain of childbirth, realizes that no, I can't give my baby to you, it's my baby. Where were you when I was giving birth
through the pain.
to the baby? So at the end of the day, it's not even morally right. The mother would definitely be attached to the child. The child also needs the mother. So that is not accepted in Islam.
So, Aja, please, what about artificial insemination?
That one too is frowned upon by Islam. But in the case where it is the husband's own sperms that they are, inserting into the woman's womb, for the woman to be able to conceive, that is from the husband, her husband's sperms that is inseminated in her. It's not anybody's. So in that particular case, if the doctors see that this is the way out for them to have children, it is not against the teachings of Islam. But to carry somebody's own, some man's sperms to put it in another woman's sperm, womb for that one.
That is not acceptable.
That is not acceptable at all in Islam.
Thank you very much. Sister Fatima, does Islam permit family planning?
Yes, it does permit family. See, Islam is a very beautiful religion, and everything has been planned by the Almighty Allah and arranged perfectly in the Holy Quran. Allah says in the Holy Quran, chapter 31, verse 15, for instance, that a woman, the weaning of a child is supposed to be 2 years. And also we can find it in chapter 2, verse 2, 3, 4, where Allah says that the suckling of, or the woman should breastfeed for 2 years. there are significance to this, because when the woman is supposed to feed for 2 years, to breastfeed for 2 years or wean the child for that long period, it helps the woman to regain her strength and prepare herself for the next pregnancy. So Islam actually helps women to plan such situations.
It looks like Islam gives solution to everything.
Yes.
We sampled the views of viewers, and this is what they said.
From my point of view, I am against birth control, because when in the olden days, when there was not even control measures, people were using the natural method. But in this case, some people are just giving birth to 10 children, 6 children, and they can't even cater for them. So if you think you can't use the natural method, you just have to abstain.
Yeah, it's good for women to go to birth control, because when you don't control your birth, the children will be many and you will not be able to take care of everybody. So when you are practicing birth control, you will be able to be spacing the children so that they will be healthy and well.
Yes, it's important for people to use birth control in order to space their children and to be able to take care of them.
Interesting views there. Hajia, it looks like from the Vox Pop, everybody is saying that you can space your children, you should space your children because of economic reasons. What does Islam say about that?
Well, the Holy Quran is very explicit on this point. When it says in chapter 17, verse 32, that وَلَا تَقْتُلُوا أَوْلَادَكُم مِّنْ خَشْيَةِ إِمْلَاقٍ نَحْنُ نَرْزُقُهُمْ وَإِيَّاكُمْ إِنَّ قَتْلَهُمْ كَانَ خِطْئًا كَبِيرًا, which means that do not kill your children for fear of poverty. It is we who provide for them and for you. Surely the killing of your children is a grievous sin. Here, I would like to emphasize that if we as Muslims, we read this verse, the understanding is that on no condition or on no circumstance should anybody say that because of economic hardships or something like that, I should not give a birth to more children because of poverty. Allah says that it is He who provides for you as well as for them. So what reason do you have to say that you will not give birth to children? And He says that the killing of your children is a grievous sin. Here it also means that one aspect of it is to stop giving birth to children. And the other aspect of it is to have children and then neglect them, failing to look after them very well, failing to provide the basic needs of society for your children, for instance, education, shelter, clothing, and all that. So once God has given them to you, it is your direct responsibility, it's your duty to actually find ways and means, proper ways and means, by working hard to know very well that I have been endowed with this precious gift from the Almighty Allah. It is my responsibility to take very good care of them and therefore provide them with whatever they need. And so work hard for Allah to bless you to have the capacity to look after the children very well.
Ajay, does that include spiritual training of the children? If you don't train the children spiritually, does that mean you are killing them?
You are killing them as well. Because if you have children and then you don't teach them to know who their creator is. After all, Allah has said it in the Holy Quran that we have been created to come into this world to worship Him. Are you not worshiping God yourself? So that you have children not to teach them how to worship. So once you have them and once you worship God, you have to teach the children how to know their God and also to worship Him in the right manner.
Thank you very much. It's getting so interesting, but we need to move on with other things. You know, Mr. Fatima, you know, when the child is born, are there any rights after the birth of the child?
Yes, yes. Actually, in Islam, when a child is born, the first thing is that you call the azan to the child. Azan is the call to prayer, where in it God Almighty tries to remind us of our duty to Him, to be prayerful and worship Him. The significance of calling the azan to the child is first of all for the child to be introduced to the purpose of his creation, for the child to know the essence of his creation, and also to remind the parents of their responsibilities toward the child, in the sense that Allah Almighty is saying that this child has come so that he should worship me. So you parents, make sure that you ensure that this child continues to worship me. And then also, after 7 days, the Akika is the naming ceremony.
7 days from the day of birth?
7 days from the day of birth. I know there are other Muslims who do it 8 days because they do not count the first day that the child is born. However, it's been reported that it's a sunnah for the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam to do the naming ceremony on the 7th day. And there are a whole lot of significance to that. 7 happens to be the beginning of the Holy Quran. For example, Surah Al-Fatiha is 7 verses, Surah Al-Nas is 7 verses. There are significance to why he did that. And in this naming ceremony, if the child is a male, you slaughter 2 sheep for the child. And if the child is a female, 1 is slaughtered. And the significance here is that slaughtering 2 sheep for the male child is also telling the male child its responsibilities, that it has a dual responsibilities, more greater responsibilities ahead of him. So right at birth, the gender roles of both sexes are defined by the Holy Quran. This shows how beautiful Islam is.
Thank you very much, Hajia. Adam and Eve sinned, and because of that, all children are born sinful. This is what some people believe. Does Islam also believe that?
No, Islam does not believe in such things. How? The Holy Quran is a perfect book, final code of guidance for the whole of mankind. And in it, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told us that every child is born sinless. The hadith of the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam clearly actually stated that every child is also born sinless. It is the parents who will make him, that particular child, a Christian, a Muslim, a Jew, or whatever. Otherwise, Adam and Eve, they cannot sin for their sin to affect all humanity. In that case, where is the Almighty Allah cannot be described as a just God. For somebody to sin, and then because I have not sinned, then the sin of that person will affect me. In that case, we are saying that God, may Allah forbid, is not a just God. He will not do such a thing. So children are born sinless, actually sinless. It is a society that will introduce him to certain norms.
So children are pure.
They are pure.
So, Sister Fatima, who takes responsibility of the child?
Both parents are supposed to take care of the child. Allah Almighty in chapter 2, verse 2, 3, 4 mentioned the rules of the father and that of the mother towards the child. So both parents are supposed to work as a team. They are supposed to be team players when it comes to the responsibility of the child. Earlier on, the mother who is supposed to breastfeed the child, make sure that the child is fed at regular intervals, changed all the time, cleansed all the time, and so on and so forth. The father is also supposed to make sure that there is food in the house, money to buy food, and the child is properly clothed and other issues. So the parents, both of them, are responsible for the upkeep of the child.
What about a child, I'm coming to you, what about a child born out of wedlock? There's no the mother is there, but the father is not there.
Well, it's rather unfortunate that such instances do happen. And once again, Islam does not encourage giving birth to child outside marriages. When such a thing happens, the burden is always on the mother, because she will have to breastfeed the child, so the child becomes attached to her, and the responsibility lies on her alone to take care of the child. Such situations happens, and it also brings a lot of burden to the society, because if children are born out of wedlock, the society continues to go in moral decadence. People end up in prostitution because there is no proper care for such children.
Yes, but those children born out of wedlock, the children themselves, are they also sinless?
Well, it's no fault of them to have been born out of wedlock. It is the fault of the parents who did not realize the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا ذِنَا إِنَّهُ كَانَ فَاشِحَةً وَسَاءً سَبِيلًا. If people realize this and they take this teaching into consideration, we will not have children born outside wedlock. Because that is what makes the Holy Quran different from all other scriptures. Yeah. When the Holy Bible says that thou shalt not kill, the Holy Quran tells you the reasons why you should not do that, because of the dire consequences attached to this kind of act, having children outside wedlock. So, but it is no fault of the children that they are born outside wedlock. So they are not sinless. There are children who are born outside wedlock, but they have been able.
They are sinless.
Yes, they are sinless. They have been able to build, to bring themselves up very well, and then they are doing very well in society. Yes. And but there are other children too born outside wedlock who are also anything that you can think of. So
thank you very much, Haji. I'm very, very interested. But I want you to also go into when, because earlier on when you were talking, you spoke about pious children. When does the child's training actually begin?
Well, for the child's training begins from the very consummation of marriage, or when couples want to meet, where they will pray. Bismillah, Allahumma jannibna shaitan wa jannibna shaitan ma razaqtana. For Allah to protect them from Satan and protect whatever Allah is going to endow them with from Satan. That is the beginning of training. So you have prayed this, and by God's grace, if it so happens that you become pregnant, the child's training starts during that period. During the period of pregnancy, where then the mother should be very careful within the environment that she lives in, her own utterances, reading of the whole Quran, especially this period, is very crucial for her as the mother. Because the child, as is growing, we understand that even after 40 days of pregnancy and things like that, the child still can hear. So, yes. So 42 days, actually, I read that the child can hear. And when you read the Holy Quran, the hearing aspect develops first, before the sight, before the mind. That is the understanding. So whatever you do, the child hears, he listens. That is why immediately when the child is born, azan is being called into his ears, and ikamat into the left ear. So it is this is where the beginning of child training. And as the child is growing from 3 to 7 years, you have to be very, very cautious. Where about those people, that psychologists who did child psychology will tell you 3 to 5 years, and then from 5 years to 7 years. So after 7 years, Islam says that start training the child to pray. And then 10 years, when he feels reluctant to pray, discipline him or her.
So you are talking about the moral training after birth.
Moral training after birth.
After birth. So when the woman is pregnant, whatever she does can impact on the child.
Yes,
Esther Fatima, please, how do we continue training the child after birth?
Yeah, after the child is born, the prayers does not end. She mentioned that before the parents meet, they pray for a child, for God to guide them from Satan. So that prayer should not end when the child is born. The parents are supposed to continue praying for the child. They are also supposed to teach the child the moral lessons that are taught by Islam. For instance, how to eat in front of you, how to respect your elders, and to be prayerful. They have to teach the child to pray at fixed hours, and also to be clean all the time, because the Holy Prophet Muhammad says that cleanliness is part of our faith. So they have to teach the child right from the onset. The kind of training that the parents give to the child should be more focused on the religion. They should focus more on the religious aspect, because at the end of the day, that is what will take the child to heaven. And then also, when they are training the child, the relationship should not be autocratic. They have to have a semi-formal relationship with their children. They have to let the child see them as friends. That is where the child will be open and talk to the parents when something is wrong, when they are at fault, especially the kind of environment we are in today, the kind of society we are in today. If they don't befriend their child or their children, they can't bring out the negative issues that the child is facing. The child will instead go outside and talk to someone and get the wrong advice.
So you are saying that when we were being trained and we were being beaten too much, it's not good for the training of a child?
No, I said semi-formal. So being autocratic also does not necessarily mean that you are beating the child. There are several ways that you can use to correct a child when the child errs. And the punishment that you met on the child is supposed to correct the child, but not supposed to inflict pain, unnecessary pain on the child.
As the promised Messiah have said that it is not necessary for you to beat them because your beating will not change them, but rather pray for them so that Allah will be able to change them.
Rightly
Thank you very
so.
much. Ajia Rahmat, please, can you give us your last words?
Well, like I said early on, children are a special gift from the Almighty Allah. They are so precious that we have to handle them with care so that they don't go out of hand. We have to give them the best of training that we can and then look after their welfare very well. Mothers should not be sluggish in the upbringing of their children, especially Muslim mothers. They have to learn the Quran very well themselves and impart Quranic knowledge to their children. By God's grace.
Thank you very much, Fatima.
Yes, I would say that in the upbringing of our children, it is very, very crucial for parents to teach their children the whys of things. The whys here, I mean, if you ask the child, do not do this, do not do that, do this or do that, you have to teach the child why I'm telling you to do this and why I'm telling you not to do that. We should always remember that as you train a child to grow, that is how the child is going to grow. As a tree inclines, so it grows. And when you start training the child at the early age with the moral teachings, with the spiritual teachings at the early age, the child is able to stick to it and grow with it.
The second Khalifa says in Way of the Seekers, if you want your children to grow into good adults, then use your home as a kind of segregation camp. Keep children away from everything except good influences. This is the only way to safeguard the future generation. My viewers, as usual, till we meet again, I leave you with a prayer of Hazrat Zakaria. Rabbi la tadarni fawdan wa anta khayru warithin. My Lord, leave me not childless, and thou art the best of inheritors. Holy Quran, chapter 21, verse 90. Stay safe. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
Wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.